Hey everybody, my name is Dan Clark.
I'm Angela Clark.
That's my wife Angela, and we just wanted to talk to you today about something that we think is very important. It's a word that's, being talked about a lot today. It's called gaslighting. And I've heard this word and heard this word and heard this word, and I really didn't know what people were talking about. And maybe you already do, and if you do, great. But I think it's the perfect word to discuss what's going on with the Jehovah's Witnesses, that we were gaslighted for years.
And for me, the Worldwide Church of God.
Yes. And, Angela, why don't you tell them what this gaslighting was? It was an old play that was in like the 1930s, and it had to do with a guy that was trying to drive a lady mad. He was trying not to allow her to think for herself. So what he would do, he would have a series of things that he did. He would turn the lights down little by little. He'd turn them down, and she'd say, "Is it getting dimmer in here? Is the lights going dim?" And he'd go, "No, they're just as bright as they always was. What are you talking about?" And so she would second guess herself.
And many other things too, like pictures missing and just making her feel like she's forgetful, like she's losing it. She's just kind of going out of her mind. She's just becoming unstable. And he just was always doing everything, knocks on the wall in the middle of the night, everything he could to make her feel like she's going crazy. And of course, he doesn't hear it. He doesn't see it, right?
Right.
Making her feel go crazy.
Yeah, so the guy was a good actor, and usually the person that's doing the gaslighting is doing it for selfish gain. They're doing it to gain some benefit. It's actually lying. I mean, if you turn down the lights and your wife asks you, "Did you turn down the lights?" and you say, "No," you're lying. Well, why would you do that? Because you wouldn't want her to trust herself. You wouldn't want her to trust her own thinking. You might even be trying to make her mad. So I was thinking about this in reference with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm just going to go back to 1975. That was a big letdown, a big, what would you call it? False prophecy.
Betrayal.
It was a betrayal. A lot of people put their lives on hold in 1975. Well, what did the Watchtower do? In 1975, they said 6,000 years from the world's beginning to 1975, there'd be this 6,000 years, and the world would end. Well, as of course it didn't end, as 75 moving into 76. They gaslighted everybody. There was a lot of people who started to question themselves. They started to say, go ahead.
And also I wanted to add, the Worldwide Church of God had the same thing going on. Our date was slightly off from yours. But I remember, every time we would have this thing called the Feast of Tabernacles, we were always told that, this is it. This is probably going to be, this is the year. And, they believed that. We were along with you guys, only just our dates were slightly off. That's all. And it was devastating, for me, because it made you, first of all, so sad that you weren't going to live the kind of life that you kind of dreamed that you would live, because it was going to be cut short.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and kind of, anyway.
So in order to cover up their lie, or you can call it a mistake, I call it a lie only because they've been doing it so long. They've been doing it for over 100 years, and they're still doing it. And so let's go back to 75. So 75 starts to pass, and we say, what happened? Our little thinker, because they set the clock. It was on the Watchtower, right? The clock's on the Watchtower, 1975. So it starts to pass. Well, they start gaslighting. They start wanting us to question ourselves. So what happens is there were a lot of people who left. In 1975, there were a lot of people who left the organization. They started to think for themselves. Well, what did they tell us? The sort of unstable ones, the scared ones. They said, boy, those people didn't love Jehovah. They weren't in for the long run, were they? And you'd say, no, they weren't. They left Jehovah. They weren't in it. They weren't lovers.
Never of us.
They were never of us. They were never in for the long haul.
That's why they left.
And so we're like, yeah, that's right. So Jehovah cleaned out his organization, is what they said. They gaslighted us. They lied to us. They told us what we saw we didn't see. And then the generation prophecy came up. That was the one after 75. Now, think about this. It's a totally different prophecy. They said 70 or 80 years from 1914 the end's going to come, because that was the length of a generation. A generation was 70 or 80 years. So they said this generation that sees the 70 or 80 years will see the Great Tribulation, and the end would come. And so we're all preaching and passing out Revelation books and Paradise books. Well, what happened? 70 or 80 years started to pass. We started to move from 80s into 90s. They had to gaslight us. So they told us that, for one, they never acknowledged it after that. When the generation prophecy passed, they didn't apologize to us. They told us the light that just went out, just like in 75, the light went out, and they told us it got brighter. Who's the biggest gaslighter of all? Satan the devil. It says he keeps transforming himself into an angel of light. He's darkness, but he appears like light. So when I was thinking about the organization, I was thinking, wow, these guys told us 75, it was it. Well, what happened? The light went out. The light went out.
Dan, it's funny. So the gaslight idea is the guy who turned down the gas lights, because back in those days they didn't have light bulbs like we have. It was gas lights in their ceiling, right? So he would turn them down. Well, this is the other way around. The organization said that we're getting light brighter. But it's still, it's funny how that is, isn't it? Literally saying that the lights be getting brighter when it's actually getting dimmer.
Yeah. And that's what I mean with the witnesses. The light actually went out. In 75, the light went out completely. And they smiled and said, actually, we got new light. And who did they say gave us the light? They said Jehovah. Jehovah's given us new light. Run to the assemblies. What did we do? We got the new light. The generation prophecy was the new light. And we are like, all right, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things occur, including the Great Tribulation. So we waited again. We listened to them gaslight us. We listened to them lie to us. We listened to them tell us to not question ourselves. Well, what happens is generation prophecy started to pass. What did they tell us? Did they say that light went out too? No. They said we got new light. There's an overlapping generation. We're like, well, isn't the light getting dimmer? Isn't the light starting to get dimmer? No, the light's getting brighter. Wouldn't that make anybody mad? Wouldn't that make anybody not question themselves? For why? For their gain. Because if we start to think, we're going to leave. We're going to say these guys are stringing us along. If we look back before 75, we'll see how they were stringing them along back then. And they were dying off. And the new generation, us dummies, came in behind our parents and believed the new stuff. 1975. See, in 1975, was just before I got really active again. It's before I got really going again, becoming a ministerial servant, really preaching. And then the generation prophecy come. When I questioned them, everybody was like in Dumbville. What are you talking about, Brother Clark? Are you reading apostate literature? No, I'm starting to think. What are these guys doing?
You want to know another way they're gaslighting, Dan? Is they keep changing it up. So, like, your dad had the prophecy of his time.
Yeah.
And then you had you guys had the generation prophecy or
yes.
the 75 prophecy? What do you call it? And then they had the next one, and now they've got another one, right?
Yeah.
It's always changing.
Yeah, and 75, generation prophecy, overlapping generation
now
prophecy.
Now we're in the overlapping right now, right?
Maybe. Scrolls or something. They're doing something else.
So there's always something. It's part of the gaslighting. It's the lying. It's the changing it up so that, sure, they'll lose some, right? What do they care? They get new ones all the time. So they just change it up and keep it kind of hopping. I know in the Worldwide Church of God, what I remember that they did was, they said that instead of the light getting brighter, they just said that God is waiting for all who could come into the faith. He's being patient, because he's loving and he's patient. I forgot the scripture that they used, but that God is waiting so that he won't lose any, like to try to get everyone that he can. There's something along the line of that. Yeah. And then it just kind of went away. No one really ever dealt with it. And I don't know, they changed it a few times and, none of this happened. It's just amazing to me because, I think the problem is this, Dan. It's when we think a leader is above us and better than us and more knowledgeable than us, and they have the special Holy Spirit. Like in my church, that's what we believe. We were just the dumb people. You guys had that. You're the faithful and discreet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Wizard of Oz, faithful and discreet slave.
No. You guys weren't even that, because that's the higher echelon. You guys were good for nothing slaves. That's what you guys were, of the slave class. Not even that high. Not even the faithful and discreet slave. You were the nothingness people, the slaves. And what is that scripture that you guys have that what we're doing we ought to be doing?
Yeah.
That we're good for nothing slaves, right?
And what we're doing we ought to be doing.
So if you think of yourself like that, then when these higher ups who you worship practically. You don't mean to, but that is what we're actually doing, guys, when we're following a leader to that point, not using our critical thinking skills. We just follow what they're saying, and we think they're better than us. They're closer to God than us. We've believed this for a very long time. And so then when they lie to us, we don't use our thinking skills and say, no, you lied. That's what you normally would do, right? If you were an equal with somebody. But because they made us feel like we were lesser than them, we don't question. Or besides, if you do, you're going to get excommunicated. For you guys, disfellowshipped. And so you don't want to do that. You don't want to risk that. That gets you in all kinds of trouble of every kind. You've witnessed that happening to people, so you're not going there. So you let the gaslighting go on because you don't want to have to go down that uncomfortable road. That's the truth, and that's why our parents did it as well. They're afraid. If they make us in fear of them, we become subject to them.
Yeah, and I just want to say we've got to quit making religion the Wizard of Oz. We got to quit looking to religion to be our Wizard of Oz. It says we can worship in spirit and truth. We go to these churches and we say, tell us how to think. Give us the next prophecy. Tell us we're going to get out of here. Tell us we're going somewhere else. And it's sad. And when we make them the Wizard of Oz, then we allow them to lie to us. Then they have to lie to us and do all these dumb things that they're doing. Which is, the witnesses are leading millions of people, false prophesying to millions of people. And I got to tell you, in these movies, the guy doing the gaslighting is usually crazy. He's manipulative. He's of the worst character. The gaslighter, the one. What normal person would try to drive his wife insane, or try to get her not to think, to move the books, and then say, I didn't move the books. Turn the lights down, and say, I didn't turn the lights down. Well, who moved the couch? Well, who did this? It's kind of like a blind person, right? You move the furniture around, and they're bumping into everything. And so the witnesses are always moving things around, especially dates. And so when we think about that, what men would gaslight a bunch of people? What men would say they heard Jehovah and then get it totally wrong? In 75, we heard Jehovah, we got it wrong. And then they go into a meeting. Just think about these guys. Think about Anthony Morris.
Son.
I think it's Morris. We'll look it up. But just think about him. He goes into a meeting. They pop one of those bottles of whiskey. They pour each other a drink and say, damn, we gotta pull up another prophecy or we're going to lose a bunch of people. And so they dump the 75 prophecy, tell everybody, we didn't say that. We weren't saying that. We didn't say the end was going to come. We didn't put an exact date on it. What are you thinking about? Well, wait a minute. Are you in this for the long run or what? And so they pour a glass of scotch and then they talk about or brandy or bourbon. And then they talk about a generation prophecy. Yeah, that would be a good one. And then they pour another glass of scotch another 10 years later and talk about the overlapping generation. That some of the anointed will be left to lead them in. And it goes on. And it's really sad. And so anyway, we just wanted to talk about this gaslighting because gaslighting's a bad deal. Gaslighting is lying. Gaslighting is lying with an intent to not make you trust yourself.
Right,
and it's not only in the Jehovah's Witnesses, like Angela said, it's Herbert W. Armstrong. Yeah. I watched a video of him, and he was yelling, by God, you'll die! If you leave what I'm telling you, you'll die. And I'm like, whoa, oh my God. That sounds like one of our assemblies. The fear and the doubt. Don't ever leave Jehovah. And, just being, anyway, I just wanted to talk about this gaslighting because the people portrayed as the gaslighters, the ones that's doing all the BSing and lying, they're evil. They're evil people.
Absolutely, Dan. And it's kind of interesting too how the change up all the time, always the change up. Like in the Worldwide Church of God, you're pleasing to God if you do this and if you do that. And all of a sudden they change it. Okay, now instead of you can't wear makeup, now you can wear a little. And instead of no birthdays, now you can kind of have a little bit of something, so long as it doesn't get into, they're always changing up the rules. Your dresses have to be down here, now they got to be here. And if you don't do this, all these rules all the time.
Can't have organ transplants, 1978,
Then they change
79, 80, you can have them, it's a conscious matter. I mean, on
It's
and on.
always changing.
Moving things around.
And like they changed the generation prophecy to the overlapping, and then now guys, they're completely changing it up. So now we're not going to have the pioneers go door to door, and now instead what we're going to do is we're going to do letter writing campaign. We're going to do, and this is how we're going to please Jehovah now. But yet they said that the going door to door was why Jesus came back and said that you found
said it would never end. Yeah.
Said he found you working, and that when
that's why he pointed him faithful and discreet slave, because he found him going door to door.
Right, and that's how come you guys were found to be the chosen, right?
That's right.
Bullshit. Sorry, but it's bullshit. And so now it's changed up again. And now they're not going door to door. Now they're not having church services anymore like all the other churches are having.
Yeah, now you're an internet connection.
Now they're selling the buildings.
It's no more longer. It used to be, do not forsake the gathering of ourselves together, Hebrews, as some have the custom, as the world has the custom. Well, when I drove around last Sunday, the churches were packed, except Jehovah's Witnesses, because it's more profitable to sell kingdom halls. They've gotten a taste for that. They started to sell those kingdom halls off, and they said, wow, we can make good money. My brother told me I don't know how many of them are gone. They're made into churches.
What?
Churches. They've turned them into churches.
Other churches?
They've sold them to churches.
Like Methodist or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
New Age, Methodist.
Wow.
Buildings that were dedicated to Jehovah, that the
my
brothers
gosh.
built and spent their hard-earned money on. They're selling them off like hotcakes. But they're not going back. Don't you think that's unkind too? I mean, I've talked to some people that went back to church, and I said, how is it now that you went back? Oh my God, it's wonderful. We got to see one another. We got to hug one another. We got to look in each other's eyes. We got to say, I love you. Oh my God, we're back together. The witnesses didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
All they gave them was an internet connection, a Zoom meeting.
That you have to be at
A
dressed
Zoom
and ready
meeting.
to go.
You're looking at little boxes on your computer, in little screens. You're not able to touch. You're not able to bump your hands. You're not even say I love you. Look in their eyes. It's disgusting.
It really is.
Those brothers have worked their butts off to pay those kingdom halls and to make a place for those people, and worked around the clock to do those 2-day builds and convention centers, and they're just selling them off. Now they've got a taste for it. I'll tell you, I forget what they were making a month. I heard one time they made $119 million selling these kingdom halls off. Well, they're not going to stop. They got them hooked up to Zoom, iPads, and they got legal problems. They got pedophilia. They got tons of that stuff going on there. They got lawsuits going. They got
Tons.
Just stuff going on all over the place.
And then they're taking the money, guys, and they're building these media centers. One in Australia. I don't know where the one is here. Do you know? Is it Wallkill?
Yeah, New York somewhere.
So they're building these massive. I mean, I thought the Wallkill, is that where it is, Dan? Wallkill?
Yeah, Warwick or Wallkill somewhere. Yeah.
Where they have this incredible walled-in city. Well, this media center is like beyond, like it's almost like the new Hollywood. And now we hear that they're starting to have actors and actresses they're calling to come and be in these plays that they're going to put out. I want to tell you one thing, that when I met Dan, I'm not an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I'm ex-Worldwide, which is part Jehovah's Witness, part Jewish, part Seventh-day Adventism mixed together. And one thing that I really, really noticed that you guys did, because I went to a couple of your services, or the convention actually, and I saw these plays that were put on. And Dan says, oh, I've seen that one before years ago. And I'm like, really? And they were like so convincing. And I thought, ooh, that is one of the ways that they get their people, because it's a visual. And that's solidified. It's kind of like music gets to people in one part of your brain, whereas plays are like in that realm, see? And it solidifies what they tell you. And no other church uses it like you guys have done in the Jehovah's Witness faith. And it's very, very effective. So they're now putting their sights on like a Hollywood. And we're going to have actors and actresses come to the where they have these media cities and do these plays. And that's how they're going to get people, via the internet and TV, and suck them in that way.
Full immersion.
Yeah, and it costs a lot of money to build this kind of a facility. And this is what they're going to do, and draw our kids in. Well, I have great concern, gaslighting, making them feel like they're going to be somebody, which is what they're against anyway, to not be of the world or like the world in any way. Bring them in. And I'm concerned about the pedophilia. I really, really am. Anyway, gaslighting again, trying to make you guys feel it's one thing when it's really another thing. They're just changing it up.
And they're making these people, kids, sign their life away so that they can have no recourse against Watchtower whatsoever.
And no money and no rights
No money,
and
no nothing.
rewards and no...
Just go there and serve. Go there and build a kingdom hall.
That's
Go
right.
there and act.
To give them money, to get them, their glory.
Yep.
And so it's not of God, it's of the devil, plain and simple, pure and straight. And
Yep.
we have to wake up and we have to be willing to see it for what it is.
Use our brains.
Right, because we've been used to thinking, again, like I said, to believe that they're better than us, that they somehow in every which way are not like us. They're better than us, and that's not the truth.
Well, we made a mediator. We said they were a mediator
Mediator.
between us and God. They're the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So we got to quit doing that. And we got a thinker. We got a brain. We got a heart. So anyway, guys, we just wanted to, that's all we wanted to share with you today was this gaslighting. It's a powerful tool that Jehovah's Witnesses are using to manipulate the people into not thinking for themselves, not reasoning for themselves, not seeing the truth as they see it. And this is absolutely a bad thing. This is not a good thing. And I'm glad there's a word for it finally.
Yeah.
I'm glad this word came out. It started coming out during the politics, gaslighting, with the different parties. They said each one was gaslighting. But when I actually looked it up and saw that play, and they said, the lady asked, is the light getting dimmer? And the guy says, absolutely not. It's getting brighter. I couldn't help but think of Watchtower and how Satan does that.
Well, a lot of people on here are going to say, Dan, that one of the ways they feel gaslighted is when they went to the elders to try to report something that was wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And then that they were told that somebody's at fault, but it wasn't who should have been in trouble for it.
Yeah.
It's gaslighting. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you're the problem and your kid's the problem. They've got to go or you've got to go, and just gaslighting them because they don't want to get in trouble, really. They don't
Yes.
they don't want to bring this whole thing to light. So the person who's going to pay is not the person who should pay. That's gaslighting. Make you feel crazy, make you feel like Jehovah is angry with you. I mean, it's beyond
It is.
sick.
It is.
Beyond sick. And in the Yellow Brick Road, the Wizard of Oz, he's behind that curtain, and what was he? What were they told? They were told that they have to go do something with the witch. I forgot what it was. It was like, so off they go to get something from the witch. I don't know what they had to do. I forgot now in the movie, but it was like, if you do that, then you'll get what you want, right? And each of them wanted something different. And in the end, they saw him for what he was. They pulled back the curtain. Oh, you're just a little old man behind a microphone, huh?
Making big promises.
Oh my gosh, so
and not
you're
being
really a
able to
nobody.
deliver.
Yeah, you're really a nobody. And so then he was all, trying to make the best of it and tell him what to do. And then what did Dorothy realize? She realized that she knew just what to do all along.
It was inside of her.
It was all inside of her. And that's really, in the end, guys, that's what me and Dan have found. That there's nobody out there who's going to get me right with God. There's nobody out there who's going to get me in the kingdom. There's nobody who's going to get me in the paradise. It's all the kingdom of God, it says, is within you.
And the beautiful thing about Anthony Morris and those guys is that when we see them drink, when we see the amount of alcohol, that should be exposing the Wizard of Oz. These guys were behind the scenes before. We didn't know who they were. Unless we went to Bethel, we didn't know who Anthony Morris, Stephen Lett, these different governing body people. We never knew who they were. We were like, who are they? Were puppet masters. They were the guy behind the curtains.
Yes, because you guys didn't know their names for the longest
Well, we
time.
knew their names,
Did
but
ya?
we
You
didn't
know who
have
they
no
were.
faces. They were just people that, heard from Jehovah more than we did. They heard Jehovah's voice. But anyway, long story short, all of a sudden we see they're drinkers. They're big drinkers. We see Anthony Morris, lying. I mean, saying that we're going to burn like maggots, those who left. I mean, putting death sentences on people who left.
Sick.
I mean, saying we're going to be destroyed, and won't they be glad that they'll never return, never come back? I mean, isn't this sick? How many religions put a death sentence on you when you leave? Jehovah's Witnesses do. You're going to suffer the second death. There's no resurrection. I mean, this is disgusting. So anyway, let's just close this off. We want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
We want to keep these videos down to around 20 minutes. So Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and if you like the video, pass it on to people, and please subscribe to the page. It's getting a lot of good attention, and that means a lot of people are getting help. They're getting to hear these talks. They're getting to think and reason with us and Angela and her perspective from the worldwide, which is very similar. Same book, same things that we had, the Good News Today, the Revelation book, the Plain Truth. Same stuff we had, being told it was absolute truth, and now it's all gone, and history, and we're still here, 2021,
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video.
All right, you're loved.
You're loved. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.